Hi, this is Little Dwarf playing games while rambling incoherently into the microphone. Why? Well, just because I can, and I continue with Sanitarium blind. Now, last time I managed to solve all of the puzzles slash challenges, whatever, in this strange combined vision that combined all of the elements from the previous chapters, and a portal has opened, so
a portal to
let's step inside.
You've come far, Max, but I'm afraid it ends here, old friend. As for these, you won't need them any longer. You failed the children of the world, as you failed your sister when she needed you most. You don't have the courage to save them, nor the strength to do what's necessary. You failed everyone. As I've told you countless times before, Max, you've always been your own worst enemy.
have to get through those columns. The real world lies beyond. This thing won't let me pass. What am I supposed to do?
Seek the truth.
Morgan, I'll get past this demon of yours somehow. You can't hold me here. Morgan, only he stands in my way.
You failed everyone. Poison will reach your veins, Max.
I'm running out of time. Got to hurry.
Ah, so it is timed. And this,
Why struggle, Max?
my like shadow or something, is mirroring my every move.
Glass statue of Olmec. He's holding an orb.
Ah, okay, but I need to evade
Black
the
sludge on the
tar
floor.
or whatever,
The same stuff that shadow creature is made out of.
because
I better not step in
it destroys me. So I guess what I need to do is probably learn the pattern of this, which is more than a little annoying, if you ask me. Yeah, I'll probably speed it up in post, because I realize it's going to be awfully annoying to watch. Yeah, and that was Morgan killing me, right? Like at this point, with the venom trying to reach my arm, it's so direct that it's
a great warrior.
but it's not even, it's no longer even a metaphor. Okay, we need to meet in the middle, right?
You are truly a great warrior.
You've always been your own worst enemy.
have the strength.
No more games, Morgan.
Soon the poison will reach your veins, Max, and it will all be over.
Okay. Is that all?
You're my hero. I love you.
The shadow is gone. You failed, Morgan. I'm gonna live!
Enough games, Max. This ends here, now. Do you know that the poison will soon condemn you to darkness forever? Lost to your doomed world. Lost to your wife. Lost to your unborn child. It's over.
I'm back. It's over.
Head of the Mercy Drug Corporation, Dr. Jacob Morgan, has resigned. This surprising development comes just a few short months after the corporation made its cure for the DNAV virus available to the public. Dr. Morgan's successor, Max Lawton, the man who discovered the DNAV cure, had no comment.
The trial of Dr. Jacob Morgan, former head of the Mercy Drug Corporation, begins this morning. Federal authorities claim Dr. Morgan hindered the drug's development in an attempt to increase company profits. He may even have gone so far as to sabotage a researcher's car, an act which nearly prevented a true cure from ever being found. Prosecutors are confident that Morgan will be found guilty and sentenced to life in prison.
Threshold.
Bare feet slippers?
You need them to go on the rides, of course.
Must I pass through the bowels of the monster?
This is a confusing mess.
What? I wish I knew, man. Why? That stuff is for the birds. What?
Who are you?
Why? Are your memory pathways in need of service? Why?
It seems they made like a song at the end out of all of the sounds. I'm going to be quiet for the rest of the credits and then give you my thoughts when it is done, because I don't want to overlook anything.
Slimy squid boy broke loose. Wish I could.
Where is that awful music coming from?
I like this music. It's got a great beat.
Oh, it's making me seasick. Do my ears deceive me?
What? What am I doing here? Who am I? Out! Out!
Greed. Pride. Evil.
My name is not meat.
His arms were red with blood and he was swinging around the head as he was talking.
Now there be a melody any good sailor would dance a jig to.
Enough games. Enough games. Enough games. Yield before Olmec.
We have a winner! Amen to that! Oh, don't cry. The music's not so bad.
That evil machine will be silent for a while.
Okay, so I think that's the end of the audio, so I can start getting into my overall thoughts on the game. If anything starts in the background again, and I'm going to just get silent, maybe there's like an after credit scene or something, but that was Sanitarium, and now I guess in the outro they sort of almost confirmed that Morgan did indeed sabotage Max's car, and he tried to kill him even before, like, the whole accident was possibly orchestrated by Morgan himself. And it also turned out in the end that I was correct in my assumption in the previous episode that pretty much all of this game was Max dying in his bed, being killed by Morgan by some kind of a drug or venom or poison. So everything that happened was like his mind trying to recollect all of the memories of his life and of the things that happened, and they all sort of combined with some associations and details from his past or from like his hobbies, as with the, for example, the comic that he read as a child. And overall the story was that Max's sister died when they were kids, and he felt kind of guilty about that because he went looking for her doll but couldn't find it, and when he returned she was already dead. So when he grew up with the memory of his sister dying at a young age, so he became a doctor to try to combat the disease that was killing the children, and he was actually an acquaintance of Morgan from like med school or something, and they worked together for some time, but I guess at some point Morgan was becoming jealous of Max's achievements, and he wanted to hinder the cure, either because he wanted to profit from it himself and he didn't want Max to be credited, or maybe he just didn't want for it to be the cure, for the cure to exist at all, and he wanted to profit from the continuous existence of the disease, offering treatments instead of a cure, because overall it would be more profitable for him if there was no actual cure. But whatever the case, Max accidentally stumbled on like the solution to finding out the cure, which that is the only part I am not totally clear on, because it seems that it had something to do with the Aztecs. He found those ruins while he was on vacation or something like that with his wife, and he stumbled upon those ruins and took a bunch of photos, and then when he was back at home working, he looked at one of them and had like a major epiphany, but I'm not sure what that epiphany was. That is the only thing that's a little bit unclear to me, but whatever the case, he made this huge breakthrough and rushed into his car to probably develop the cure, but I guess Morgan must have known that he's very close to reaching the cure, and he sabotaged his car, although that element is not certain. So even if he didn't sabotage the car, after the accident, when Morgan realized that Max is going to survive, he tried to kill him by using some kind of a poison or like a drug, or something like that, and the whole game was like Max gathering his inner strength to combat the effects of the drug. So I guess in the end he wasn't even insane, he was just dying, and his brain was working in a different way, which is exactly the thing that happens when you're dying. Some sections of the brain start shutting down one by one as you lose energy. So it's very possible to experience like hallucinations and almost like visions at the moment of death, or not even death, but any kind of, for example, if you're seriously ill, or like oxygen deprived or something, if there's something seriously wrong with your body, you can experience various hallucinations and things like that. I actually had a case like that in my family, where a person close to me was very seriously ill, and she was actually, I guess, close to death at some point, and she did have like pretty vivid visual hallucinations of our family dog that was dead at the point, and she actually saw him and talked with him, and there were other things. But anyway, Max was dying throughout the whole game, while Morgan was trying to kill him to prevent the cure from being developed. So I think that is all, and provided there is no after credits scene, that would be the entire story. Now, I guess, judging from the ending, that his wife never really left him, because it seemed for a second there in the circus section that his wife left him at some point, but in the ending she was there in the outro. And I guess maybe because I was confused for a second, in one of the visions she said something like, oh, Sarah has been waiting for you. If that was her, I was also confused by that, but now it seems a little bit more clear, because it might be that they actually had a kid together, and they just named their daughter Sarah to honor Max's dead sister, because after all, his sister had a profound effect on his life. It was her death was the main motivation behind Max becoming a doctor in the first place. Now I'm a little bit I don't know, sad or disappointed that Morgan's comeuppance was only depicted with like a voiceover over the radio. I would enjoy some more concrete conclusion to the game, you know, him getting him see him in prison, or getting to see his trial in a cutscene or something like that. But maybe there's like a secret ending, or maybe I've done something wrong. Maybe there are multiple endings to the game. But even if they are, I think my ending is still pretty happy, you know, with Max surviving and Morgan eventually getting tried for his crimes. So I guess that's all, right?
Turn to game.
Yeah. So that was Sanitarium. It was the first true point-and-click adventure game I have ever played, because the only other one was The Lord of the Clans, but The Lord of the Clans is actually an alpha unfinished version ripped out of the internet, so I guess it doesn't really count. And yeah, I loved it. Like, okay, I didn't fall in love with the genre, to be honest. It was quite annoying in some of the design choices, especially things like the pixel hunting, you know, when you had to look for some minuscule item that wasn't in any way distinguished from the background, so we were just clicking on everything like a freaking madman, and then just stumbled upon the correct item nearly by accident. I was definitely not a fan of that. I also would enjoy some, like a sprint option for the protagonist, because he was moving quite slowly, and when you went back and forth in those different locations, it was becoming a little bit tedious at some point. I did, however, mostly enjoy the actual puzzles. I think they were pretty well done, because most of them, like, I didn't have any moment. There were some moments in which I myself wasn't exactly sure how to properly solve it, and I sort of brute forced it. as in with the boulder in the laboratory, but I'm pretty sure there actually exists a proper way of solving that, and I'm just dumb, and my stupidity shouldn't count against the game. Most of them were pretty logical. Once you had all of the items required, figuring out what to do with them was pretty, logical in the end, and it didn't feel annoying to me. I never had a situation that after solving the puzzle I was thinking, oh, nobody could have ever figured that out. The most annoying part was actually finding all of the needed items, but when you had them, the actual puzzles were pretty enjoyable, although I would also say some of them were pretty hard, especially like the one in the laboratory. I had a lot of trouble with that, but as I said, it's probably my fault. It's probably something that I overlooked, so I had to brute force it, but even then, it was kind of enjoyable in a weird, borderline masochistic way. Like, it has been years since I've played a game that required me to take a piece of paper and make my own notes, write something down, try something, some combinations and whatever. So that was definitely cool. But what's probably best about the game is the story and the way it was told. Like, overall, in the end, it turns out to be a very simple story about, a doctor that wanted to repent for, in his mind, not saving his sister when they were kids, and so he became a doctor and tried to save other children in adulthood, and then a jealous, greedy colleague tried to kill him. When you tell it like that, it's very simple and almost like boring, but the way the game depicted it was great, because you had all of those things that seemed very disjointed and almost random at first. Those different worlds with like the plant children, the freaking Aztecs and the gods, and also the freaking bug world, like the Insectoids versus Cyclops comics were probably the most crazy stages of the game. I'm still getting creeped out by some of the imagery there, like, babies being experimented upon and whatever. But in the end, it all made sense. It all related towards Max's actual life story. So I very much enjoyed piecing together those different elements and trying to figure out how it works out in the end. And it did. And that's the most important thing to me, because, as I already mentioned once, it's very easy to make a game that's shocking and weird. You just put whatever random element you think about, and you can say, oh, it's a metaphor, it's deep, whatever. But if there isn't any actual connection, if you just throw random stuff and want to seem deep, it's often very pretentious and annoying. And this game, I think, avoided that pretty perfectly, because all of those elements made sense in the end, and it was very much fun and enjoyable and interesting for you as the player to try to piece it together by using, those fragments of cutscenes and elements. Like, for example, if you noticed that Max was reading the comic as a kid about Grimwall, and then you yourself transformed into Grimwall, and noticing all of those connections, it was immensely cool, and I am very happy with that. So overall, I definitely enjoyed my time with Sanitarium. I'm glad I played it. It was I wouldn't say it was a brilliant story. As I said, the story itself was actually quite simple when you think about it, but it was brilliantly told, or maybe not even brilliantly, but very creatively. It was very unique. I haven't experienced anything like this before, and it all made sense in the end, and I'm very glad that it did, because often, like, the thing I was thinking about at some point was a game called Fahrenheit, which I think in some of the countries, maybe in the UK or the US, was actually released as the Indigo Prophecy. But this game started out very promising. It was ominous, it had interesting themes of madness, you weren't sure what's actually happening, and then in the end it devolved into this convoluted fantasy/science fiction mess with the producer of the game, I mean not producer, but with the developer of the game throwing pretty much random stuff at you, and it all was like a garbled mess. And I was very much afraid that this game would end up the same way, but it didn't. It actually sticked the landing pretty much, because everything in the end, everything combined together into a coherent story about a man's mind in a very, very difficult position on the brink of death, you know, with all of your memories and hopes and dreams and nightmares mixing together. And it was very creative, it was very unique, and it made sense in the end, and I am glad that it did. So it was a great adventure. Like, I would very much welcome, if anyone is watching this, if you know any games that are similar to this in tone. I'm not necessarily talking about mechanics. It doesn't have to be a point-and-click adventure, because, to be honest, that was probably the part, like the actual mechanics, was probably the part I'm least in love with. But I might try some other point-and-click adventure games eventually. But if you know any games that are similar to this game in story, themes, and overall creativity, especially ones that touch upon the subjects of like madness, mental illness, you know, things like that, I am very much interested, and I would like to hear your recommendation. But I think that's all I had to say about Sanitarium. So I guess that's all for this one, and I'll see you in the next one, whatever it might be.